Hello again, everyone. This should be a very short video. I just want to review a couple of the words that you might have had difficulty with. So you have words like que here at the end of a word, so Q-U-E at the end of a word. And you can see over here on the margin that what this means is basically the same thing as if you had at the beginning of the word. So medusque means et medus. So that in and of itself should be relatively self-explanatory, so to say. Then you have words like quis and que, which are slightly less intuitive. Quis means who or what, and then que also means who or what. So it's the same word as quid, except in the masculine and feminine genders, which those are the genders that are introduced in this chapter. So if you need sort of a refresher, you can go back and rewatch that video. Then on the next page, on page 14, down at line 35, you can see the line right there. You have cuius servus est davus, davus est servus Iuli, cuius ancilla est Sira, Sira est ancilla Emilia, so on and so forth. So cuius is actually also the word quis, que, quod, but it's in the genitive, and as you can see here, it's the same word. It takes the same form, no matter if it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. Cuius basically means of whom, so of whom is Davus the servant, or whose servant is Davus, and the answer to that question is Davus is the servant of Julius. Then the last word that I think someone might have difficulty with is the word ceteri, cetera, cetera, as you can see that is introduced on line 59, so right above the 60, and basically what this means is other or others. So in Africa there is only one large river, or there's one large river, the Nile, and the other rivers of Africa are small. Similarly, there are only two large Greek islands, and then the other Greek islands are small. So ceteri, cetere, cetera means others. Okay, so now we got that part out of the way. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is you can see, turning back onto page 13, you can see the way that this chapter introduces some new words. So for instance, the words vir, femina, puer, and puella. Basically, there's a distinction that I've learned to draw between the words vir, femina, puer, and puella, where those words, like someone is a man regardless of whether or not he's a father. The word vir just sort of means that he is a male who has reached a certain age. A puer is a male who hasn't reached that age, and it's the same thing with femina versus puella. A femina is just a female who has reached a certain age, and then puella is someone who hasn't reached that age yet. And you can talk about someone being a vir or a femina regardless of whether or not, or out of the context of other people. Whereas with the words that are introduced in the next two chapters, so those are the words that are introduced in the first two, paragraphs, not chapters, first two paragraphs. And then the next two paragraphs, the words that are introduced are pater et mater, or father and mother, and then filius and filia, or for son and daughter. So the thing about these words is that someone can't be a father without having children, or he can't be a father without being the father of someone. Similarly, someone can't be a daughter without being the daughter of someone, and so on and so forth. So you can see why the genitive is introduced in this chapter, because the way you translate the genitive is you put of in front of the word. So with the sentence like Iulius est pater Marci, that sentence translates to Julius is the father of Marcus, and so on and so forth. And so the words are relational. And similarly, you have the other set of dynamics between the dominus and the domina versus the servus and the ancilla. So ancilla is basically female slave, or using an older English term, handmaid, whereas a servus is a servant, but really it's a slave. Servant has a softer connotation, but slave is really what a servus is. So I'm hoping that this little explanation has given you more of an understanding of how the genitive works, namely as a way of thinking of a thing or a person in relation to other things or people. So you would say that this video is the video of Mr. Herb, or that you are the son or daughter of your parents, or that your parents are the father or mother of you. And so basically I want you all to think of the genitive as a relative word, because that's more or less how it's introduced in this chapter. And each of the times that you translate it, or if you do translate it rather, I want you to translate it in terms of, basically, you translate the word normally, but then you put the word of in front of it. And I think that should be everything. I know this is a little bit of a sort of almost a rehash of last week's video, but I think that these reminders and repeats, I think they really do help.